Hi everyone, I'm Gina K from Gina K Designs and your host of Stamp TV. I'd like to welcome you to our release party presentation. Tonight, you'll get to see 3 brand new stamp sets by our talented illustrators Melanie Menchinger, Teresa Momber, and Beth Saleka. At any time, feel free to click on the links below the screen to play along with our contest questions, our challenge, and to see all of the stamp sets in full, along with the beautiful samples created by our design team especially for you. If you're the partying type, we have a party chat thread going strong where you can hang out with the design team from now until 8 p.m. Central Time. And the best news is, all of the sets are already available in our store at GinaKDesigns.com, so you don't have to wait to place your order. Sit back, relax, and enjoy tonight's release party presentation. I'm so excited to show you the new stamp sets that we've released tonight. First up, Melanie Menchinger has created the perfect addition to her A Year of Flowers series, yet this one surely stands alone. A Year of Flowers 3 is a beautiful set full of hand-drawn flowers, perfect for watercoloring, Copics, or any of your favorite coloring methods. Birds and Blossoms 2 is a stunning follow-up set to Teresa Momber's original Birds and Blossoms stamp set. This set is perfect for springtime stamping, and it's another wonderful set for coloring and monochromatic stamping. Genevieve Giraffe is the newest stamp set by Beth Saleka. This adorable set is the perfect set for anyone of any age on your card-making list. Plus, you can mix and match these images and greetings with other sets in your collection to create cards for birthdays and more. I'm so excited to introduce the newest incentive stamp, Scripty Sayings. This set is yours free with any $75 purchase and will add a touch of elegance to any card project. Now that you've seen the beautiful new stamp sets that we've released tonight, I want to show you a technique that many of you have asked about, and I also want to show you a few cards I made using the new stamp sets. Let me show you the tools and products you need to do this technique. First, you're going to need some watercolor paper, and the watercolor paper that I'm using is the Distress Watercolor Cardstock. This is a Tim Holtz product, and it contains 20 pieces of very sturdy watercolor cardstock. So I really like having this close at hand. A lot of other fantastic video YouTubers like Jennifer McGuire have recommended this, and I tried it and I just love it, so I highly recommend it. And it's also now available in our online store at GinaKDesigns.com. The other thing I'm going to use is some VersaMark ink because I'm going to do a little bit of embossing. With the VersaMark, I'm using some of the Fine Detail White Gina K Designs embossing powder. And I'm also using a water bottle filled with some water. This is the Tim Holtz Distress Sprayer. You can use something like this, or you can use one of the mini misters or any spray water bottle. Then, for the purpose of this technique, I am going to use Melanie's new set. This is A Year of Flowers 3, and this is a great set for the watercolor technique. Now, a lot of you have asked about the Zig Clean Color markers, and let me show you what they look like. Here they are. I bought this little bin on Amazon to hold my markers. And when I tip the bin forward to put it down, the markers do have a tendency to slide out because the lids are a little bit bigger than the tip. Of course I could, or than the bottom. Of course I could turn them the other way, but then I really can't see the color, and I guess I'm just not patient enough to put a little color dot on the tip of each one. So the way I store these, I bought this little container, and then I just take an acrylic block and I place it underneath, and that helps to keep it tipped up just a little bit so the markers won't slip out. So the Clean Color brush markers, let me tell you a little bit about them. First of all, they are actually a brush. So it's different than another type of marker because Other markers have more of a kind of a felt tip or a spongy kind of tip. This is actually a brush, and I want to show you up close what I mean. If you can see this, maybe I can do it right here on the paper. You can spread it out there. See, it's actually a brush with bristles. So that's one of the things that's really cool about this and different than any of the other watercolor markers I've tried. Now, I like a lot of the other watercolor markers, and I don't want you guys to feel like you have to run out and get these particular markers. You can do this technique with distress markers, you can do it with Spectrum Aqua markers, and you can also do it with any of the watercolor paints that are available, even some of the inexpensive paints that you can get at a big box store. But I did want to try these because I had heard so many things about them, and if you are looking for a really high quality watercolor marker, I would suggest getting these markers, or at least putting them on your wish list for the future. And you don't need them all. Just collect a few at a time and you can do a lot of things with them. Remember, most artists will be able to work magic with just red, yellow, and blue, because they will take those colors and mix them to make greens and purples and pinks and stuff like that. So you only need a few colors that you want to use a lot, and there are great sets available that even come in as few as 12 markers. Okay, so these are the markers that I'm going to use for this technique. Now what I've done here is I've cut a piece of this watercolor cardstock. Now, one of the things I saw Jennifer McGuire do is she actually taped her cardstock flat when she painted it, and it prevented some of the curling. I tried that, and it works really well. I also forgot to do it one time, and as long as you use a little bit of extra tape on the back of your piece of cardstock once you're ready to mount it on your layers, that will also flatten it out. So if you forget to do it, it's okay. But it is a neat tip, so thanks, Jennifer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this sunflower stamp. And let me grab a clear block. Get that on there. Okay, and I've also pre-stamped that on a Post-it note. This is a full sheet Post-it note, and I just trimmed it out using my scissors so I have a mask. Now I'm going to use the Embossing Magic Pad and just rub that over my watercolor cardstock. And when I trimmed this piece down, I had this little strip here on the bottom, and I kept that. I'm going to use that just as my little work piece to make sure that I'm getting color out of my marker. But these are also great to keep and cut as strips, and then you can add greetings to your cards using the same kind of white paper that you're using for your focal images. Alright, so I'm going to take this VersaMark ink and ink up this stamp real well. I'm going to stamp one up here, like this. Then I'm going to stamp another one. Kind of have to look at where I stamped it. It's a little hard to see, but if you're not looking right in to a, you know, if you've got a bright light and you can kind of turn it, you can kind of see the watermark left behind. And then I'm just going to put a little piece of one down here. Okay. So my next step is going to be to add some of this fine detail white powder. And I have a little scrap piece of paper here. Okay. And now, I'm not going to put all this away just yet because I'm going to add some leaves, but I am going to emboss this using my heat tool. And the heat tool that I have is the Marvy heat tool. I really like it. A lot of people are using some of the other tools out there. Any heat tool you have will work just fine for this. And just don't use a hairdryer because it'll just blow the embossing powder right off your piece of cardstock. Okay, so I'm going to give that a minute to dry, and I'll see if you can see that there. You can see the shine. Okay. All right, so we're going to give that a minute to cool off. In the meantime, I'm going to change out my stamp to one of the leaf stamps. And I think the one I'm going to use is this one that has 3 leaves on it. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now I'm going to lay this right on top, and I can see it. You probably can't see it where you are, but I can see it because I can see where it's raised. And I just want to mask that flower. So I can add a leaf right here. And then I'll mask this one. Move that down a little bit. I've used this mask so many times that I think it's time for me to make a new one. I know there are some spray tack types of things that you can spray on the back to make things tacky again, and maybe I should do something like that with it. Let's add another one on the other side here. Just want to have a little bit of a leaf coming out. And then I'll put that right there. And we'll do one more. Let me move that a bit. Okay. And now we'll add a little bit more embossing powder to those leafy areas. And emboss again. Oh, this is going to be fun. I really feel like that is the best way to get this look. You do need to emboss your flowers first, then mask them, and then do your leaves. You can't really put a mask over embossing powder that hasn't been set with a heat tool yet, so you're going to need to do it in 2 steps like that. Now you can see that I've embossed using white powder and not a colored powder like black, but you certainly can do that. But I wanted to show you how cool this looks using white. Okay, so I'm going to grab another piece of cardstock. Let me use this here. Okay, so now I'm going to pick a very light blue. I'll use this very light blue here. And I'm going to add some of that light blue all over the surface of this. Now, one of the reasons why I really wanted to show you this technique is because I truly don't know what I'm doing. And that's good and bad. The good part about that is if I don't know what I'm doing and I can make it look good, anybody can make it look good. I mean, it's not a hard technique to do. But, you know, I just don't want you to be afraid of this. Okay, now I'm going to spray a little water on that. And kind of just dab on it a little bit with my fingers. Just want to create some blue sky in the background. And then I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to blot over those flowers a little bit. Just going to pull some of that off there. And that gives me a really pretty background. Use a little bit more here. All right. The neat thing is you can spray over and over and over again and just get beautiful color and beautiful blends with these markers. And I think that's why I like them, because no matter what you do, you can fix it. It's not permanent. Okay. So now the next step is going to be to add a little bit of yellow to these flowers. So I'm going to kind of follow along the line. And you can see I'm not worrying about going outside of the lines at all. In fact, I kind of want to go outside of the lines. Okay, we'll do the next flower. We're not going to worry at all about whether or not we got some of that yellow on the leaves, because that can just be blotted right back off again. And also some of the yellow will mix with the green in the leaves to give it a really neat look too. Okay, so there's the second flower. And there is the third flower. I just want to make sure I get it all covered. Okay. So now once again I'm going to use a little bit of water on that, because I want it to bleed a little bit outside the lines. You can see how cool that looks. And I'm just going to blot up a little bit of that. Now I'm going to add a little bit of a brown into the center, so check my color over here. That's pretty dark. And I'll just kind of add that into that little center part. I'll blot that a little bit more. Get some of that water out of there. Okay, and while that is drying a bit, I'm going to pick up some green, pretty green, and I'm going to add that to the leaves. Boy, I've got a lot of water on there, and if you have too much water, just blot it up, and then you'll get deeper color. Sometimes you have to start your pen again when you have too much water on the pen. There we go. You can see how that's starting to look. And I like going outside the lines because that allows you to actually see the lines of the image in white. Blot up this one to get some of that yellow off of there. Add some of that green. Okay. And if you want a darker green, or a brighter green I should say, I'm going to grab another one. And I'll list the colors that I use underneath the video. Let's do some of this in here. I'm going to spray this a little bit. And that'll soften it. And then I'm going to go back with a little bit more of that darker olivey green to get into the center a little bit more. So you can't mess it up. You just try things, and if it doesn't work, you just spray it with water and try something else. That's what's really fun about this. Okay, now I'm going to grab another brown, and I'm going to add a little bit of brown along the outside of the center of that flower. So I'm just kind of extending that brown along the outside like that. And if you have too much water and it's not picking up correctly, just dab it. it's so pretty. Okay. If you want it darker, you can go darker. I'll use that darker brown again. It's just very subtle. When it hits the water, it just blends so nicely. And then I'm going to add a little bit of an orangey color into these little white lines that you'll see that Melanie drew into these flowers. Just to brighten it up a little bit more. You'll get a much more subtle look if you are doing this over a lot of water versus just a little water. So, try it over a lot of water. If you don't like it, just blot up the water and add more marker over it. You can see these bottom flowers are quite a bit wetter. So we'll dab a little of that off. And add some more. And the thing about this, it's so fun. You could just keep adding. Try adding a little red, try adding another yellow that's a little different. And the colors just blend themselves. So if you're afraid that you don't know how to blend, don't worry about it because the markers do it themselves. They just blend together with the water. So you can see kind of how that looks. Now if you wanted to add a little bit of a deeper blue around parts of the area, you can go back with that original blue and then you can add a little bit of darker blue in the areas in between the flowers to kind of separate them a little bit more and make them pop a little bit more. You can see how that's... Isn't that neat how the blue and the green blends there? But it really makes you look like an artist, and I am not an artist, so I love anything that makes me look like one. Okay, so that is my little masterpiece. And I would just let that dry. Once it dries, if you want to add a little bit more, maybe you look down here and you say, oh, you know, the top one has more orange. I want to add some more bright orange to this one. You can do that. I heard somewhere, and again, I'm not an artist, so it kind of made me laugh a little bit, but I heard somewhere that an artist never finishes a piece, they just abandon it at some point, and that's it. That's when it's done. And I never understood that until I started playing with these markers, and I thought, yeah, I could just do this all day to this one piece of paper. I could just keep playing and adding color and seeing what happens, and at some point I have to be done, because I have to turn it into a card. So add a little bit more brown here, around here to match the other ones. There we go. Okay. So there is my finished piece. I'm going to abandon it right now. Isn't that pretty, though? Okay, now let me show you a card I made using this. And I got to keep these markers together so I can let you know which colors I used. All right, so I made one using this same technique. And this uses Melanie's A Year of Flowers 3. All I did was take my little watercolor piece and put it onto a piece of black onyx, and then I layered it onto some plain white cardstock, and I added one of the greetings from the new Scripty Sayings incentive set. So this is a nice card for sympathy, or just, you know, if you want to send a card of encouragement to someone with love and prayers is always a nice greeting. So that's one card I made using this technique. Now another card that I made used Teresa Momber's new set. I used the Cherry Blossom branch and some really bright color zig markers. I used some of this one is the fluorescent pink. It's FL pink, and I'm going to assume it means fluorescent pink, and I also used the regular pink. So a couple pink markers. I think I grabbed this one too in there, the dark pink. So I blended 3 pinks together to get that, and then I just used a little bit of brown and that same blue marker to do the background. And I made this one into a birthday card using the Scripty sayings. So those are 2 cards that I made using this technique. Now I want to show you one more card that I made because I just love Beth Saleka's set so much. And this one I blended with some of the pieces from the Made with Love Stamp TV kit. So this one, I grabbed a couple of the pattern papers and I colored this one using Spectrum Noir markers. Just colored that in, the little giraffe, and I used 4 pieces of pattern paper and kind of made a window in the back there with the pattern paper and put that on some apple mint cardstock. And this one is Thanks for Sticking Your Neck Out for Me. And I think this is a really cute card to give to somebody that's maybe a little bit younger. You can use a birthday greeting or whatever, but the bright colors really make it fun and festive. So here are 3 cards using stamps from our brand new release. And all of these stamp sets are now available in our online store at GinaKDesigns.com. So there you go. And I'll have pictures underneath the video, so if you come back and take a look at the video later, there will be pictures underneath and all of the measurements that I used to make these cards, including all of the colors of the zig markers that I used to create these 2 particular designs. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's release party presentation. The new stamp sets are now available in our online store at GinaKDesigns.com. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you back here soon on StampTV.com.